For you. Yeah, you saw that, that's why I have my complaint tonight.
Okay, we'll start with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, before we get started, for the record on our fees, we're gonna put our new building fees on hold. We're gonna temporarily go back to the old rates. We're gonna reconstitute the committee, and they're gonna revise the fees for 2023. And anybody who got a permit after these fees were implemented, we're gonna go back to the old fees and reimbursement. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes from our previous town board meeting on July 6th, please. Motion by Mr. Gibbons, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Martin. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Approval for travel for Kim Howard on October 16th, October 19th for our annual clerk conference in Albany.
So moved, John. She's done this a number of years.
Yep. Motion by Mr. Martin, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Montrose. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay. Highway superintendent has a truck purchase from the town of Verona. It's a used truck. Maybe you want to say anything about it?
It's a 2016 Mack. It's 5 years old. We bought one last year and had really good luck with it. It's less than half the price of the new one, so.
Can you even get new ones, Andy?
Takes a while.
Okay. How many miles per hour are on
71,000 miles.
What was the last one we got? How many miles that have on it?
They had like 67.
Yeah, they take care of it. They're in good shape. So I'll need a motion for that, please.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Montroy. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, the discussion about VRBO and Airbnb. I just received a email from Mary Capling. She's requesting the zoning laws be changed in the town of Sullivan to prevent residential homes from being used for motels, hotels. The property located on Fox Road was purchased a year ago. Since that time, it's been rented continuously. The homeowners do not live in the residence. These homeowners are planning to purchase another home on Fox Road and turn it into another hotel, she calls it. But I know there's legislation in certain areas of the country that require the homeowner to live in the residence a certain amount of time. Some places say 50% of the time in order to be allowed to rent it out their property. Please help in preventing residential neighborhoods in our town from becoming hotel strips. But that's VRBO. John, do you have anything that you have in any other towns?
Yeah, we have a few towns that have adopted what are called short-term rental laws to try to address problems. Typically, these issues occur on lakefront properties. And from what we've seen, we've spoken on this at the state level, is that some of these properties that go out to be rented for extended periods of time, they tend to become party houses, and if the owner isn't around to take care of or in the near, be able to answer phone calls, it can be problematic for the neighbors. idea what the extent of this issue is, so my suggestion is you maybe form, it's up to you, but you maybe form some sort of smaller committee to study what the issue is and make sure that if you're gonna regulate something, make sure there's a need and make sure the regulation is as minimal as possible, because I'm certain that people will be upset if we say, here's what you can do with your property, here's what you can't. But Cazenovia did it, and that's a different type of community. It's a small lake and small lots and properties. And since we've adopted, and the village did it too, but I didn't do the village's law. Since we've adopted it, there's still been a few problems, but we have a law. At the county level, they wanna collect the occupancy tax. They want the money out of that. So when you set this up, you create a whole system. So the codes office will have to create a registry for who's doing a VRBO or an Airbnb. There's a lot of reporting, and then there's insurance requirements. I don't know, John, if you run into that, where some of these companies require that they have additional insurance in place. Certain occupancies might change the nature of the property. So it's somewhat complex, but they're doing it all over the place, obviously. And it all started out on Saranac Lake, and Lake Placid was one of the starting points for it a number of years ago. So you guys are all familiar with the issues are, but I don't know how bad it is. And I did read the property owner's complaint.
Well, I think their concern is they're planning on buying another property along that area.
It becomes an investment thing, and that's happened, well, you see it in college towns too, where the properties get purchased up and then there's no place for, local residents that are working to go find, affordable housing. So that's the other issue. That's what they discovered in Lake Placid. All of the houses were gone. There's no place for the school teachers to come in and purchase or long-term rentals. The short-term rentals themselves are very, very economically profitable. You can make 3 times as much in rent off of a short-term rental Airbnb than you can if you just rent out that place to one person for a year. It's real money. So you gotta balance those things. And if the board wants to take action, I suggest you study it before you.
Yeah. Okay.
I think for us, it's in the very early stages, because this is really the first year that I've been hearing more and more about it. So it's something that we have to learn more about and look into.
And you can look it up on a map. If you go to VRBO or to Airbnb, there's a few other ones. They have maps, and you can, if you want to look what's going on around the lake, they have you can see with like little red dots. These are the ones that are available for short-term rentals, and it gives you a handle on how big the issue is, assuming they're going through one of the bigger companies. Some of them don't. But if you decide to do something, I can certainly.
All right, good questions here.
Yeah, well,
Need your name and address.
my name is James Springberg. I live at 433 Fox Road, between the two houses in question.
Okay. Okay.
And it's not an issue other than the road I live on is 6 houses long, dead-end street, quiet neighborhood. They purchased this house that Ms. Caitlin was talking about last year and don't spend any time there. And which is fine, but every week through the summer, it's rented and there's cars all over the road, like parking in the road, parking in the grass, all that stuff. I'm not one to tell somebody what to do with their private property. I really don't love the sound of having to tax it or regulate it or something. This guy has got word that my other neighbor is selling and is willing to make a cash offer to him before he even gets to the real estate market. And then I'll be living between 2 Airbnbs and a 6-house dead-end road.
And this was the issue on that other road that guy came in.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
on, Pierce Road,
Yeah.
there's a couple, I know Palmer Circle, somebody's bought 3 in a row, I believe.
I went down on Pierce and talked to a few of the neighbors, and they said it was only an issue once in a while, wasn't all the
I
time.
think the parking is the bigger issue, the parking on people's lawns, and the roads aren't wide enough, and people, start parking on the side of the roads, and emergency vehicles can't get through. We've had issues with plow trucks not being able to get through, so roads are narrow. So that's a major problem, is the parking, and it's hard to regulate it because you have a different tenant every couple days, or every week, or every weekend, and it's like you're retraining someone. So, I think that whoever owns the Airbnb really has to put some stuff in there about not parking on the road, or we're gonna have to do something maybe in the short term with parking, or get the vehicles removed.
The Cazenovia law says no on-street parking, but what we're learning is that both the Airbnb and the VRBO they're concerned about those issues too, so in their own contracts, they regulate the people that are renting. And say you can't make a lot of noise, you have to have a 24-hour-a-day phone number with a responsible person, so if Larry or somebody gets a call, there's gotta be a number you can call, and that person has to come and respond to it or take care of it in some way. Easier said than done,
Right.
because if they don't show up, then the neighbors are the ones that are left not sleeping that night, so. It's best if the owner is nearby or even present during certain hours, maybe from 7 at night to 7 in the morning, if they're also there, something like that, but that's gonna be the devil with details.
So are they getting out of hand, or it's just the parking?
Now,
mostly?
you know, it's every week is different, and you know what, it's not even weekly, you know, the minimum is 3 days. So you could have, in a week, you have 2 separate groups of people. And with this particular house, it's a bigger house, you don't get 1 or 2 people there to enjoy the lake, you get families for a golf outing, or what seems to be like,
Bachelor party.
it's one of them,
Party,
like
yeah.
playing volleyball till 11 at night. And I'm well aware, they're on vacation, I'm well aware with VRBO and Airbnb, you can make a call to the sheriff's office, and you know, if they get so out of hand that something can be done about it. My concern is that just 6 houses and 2 of them on each side of me are gonna be owned by the same person, and they live, from what I know, maybe Whitesboro or Utica area. And, so can respond semi-quick, but, you know. And there's open communication, when I do see them there to mow or clean, I go and talk to them, which isn't an issue, but.
I'm wondering if we get a hold of VRBO or Airbnb and say, okay, there's no on-street parking.
Mm-hmm. So we would need the exact address for where the offensive conduct is occurring, and then we could try to see if
Yeah, I've got that.
Larry would
I
probably
left the
contact
house
us, of
number
course.
off.
Yeah. So Larry, Larry can call me and I can walk him through what he can try to do.
So what's he do, get a hold of Airbnb?
Yeah, there's a number on their website you can call. That was a big deal a couple years ago, because there was a big dust up, it's in the news all over the country about people pushing back on Airbnbs. So they responded by providing these numbers and then creating a new set of rules, the whole thing.
Well, maybe that's something we gotta address in our comprehensive plan.
I think so. So they said the road's 16 feet wide in the wintertime, it's pretty popular with snowmobiles. So
Yeah, well, yeah, I didn't
Trucks and
think of that.
snowmobile trailers, they can't get the trailers into the driveways.
Can't get the ambulance down through there, can't get a
You
fire
can't
truck
get-
down there, you're not going down there.
Or we end up backing, you know, these roads are so narrow, and then we end up backing 3/4 of a mile out of the road because we can't get through and turn around. We lay the air horn on the forehand, and it really pisses off the people that are trying to get.
Live there all the time.
So, and they don't come out anyway.
Is there somewhere I could see the Casanova law, how it's written?
Yeah, it's online,
It is
so just
online.
go to Town of Casanova, you look at the village law too, there is somewhere, but you go online, Town of Casanova, you look under short-term rental. I think there's a search button right there you can click on. And then the town clerk can get you a standalone copy, if you mention my name there, she knows me, she'll email it.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I guess.
for now,
Yeah, I mean, it's not really the parking that I'm worried about, it's my little quiet neighborhood, turning into vacation central.
yeah,
And like he said earlier, the property, you know, property that touches the water is now unattainable for.
yeah.
They're definitely scooping them off.
Yeah, we had one,
I mean, he's making cash offers. A house on Barrett Lane just went for $550. He said I gave him an offer for $550 cash, and he took a higher offer for, it's unfathomable.
we, had a gentleman a couple weeks ago that was getting out of hand and being loud, and I called him and said, he told me 4 or 5 times that we don't have a noise ordinance in the town of Sullivan, and I says, yes, we don't have a noise ordinance in the town of Sullivan, please don't make us do one, because if we do, we will name it after you. Well, I wouldn't want that, so, so it'd be nice to the neighbors. So. Okay. Everybody good? Okay, Whitelaw Water, and then we'll go on to Bridgeport. Taylor, you wanna give us a rundown here?
Sure. Where we're at right now, about a month ago, the board did part 1 of the secret process. That's the environmental review. So if you guys recall that, you reviewed, there's a state form, the environmental assessment form, part 1. You establish your intent as a board to be the agency for that environmental review. and, those notices were sent out to the interested involved agencies. The 30-day window has since passed. Nobody has objected to the board's, intent to be the lead agency. So with that, we're at our next step here, which is to review parts 2 and part 3 of that environmental assessment form. Hopefully you guys have had time to review those and maybe have those in front of you. With this step here, we'll review parts 2 and 3. I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And then the board will make their environmental determination, which is it a negative declaration, being no adverse, significant adverse impacts to the environment, or a positive declaration if the board so chooses. So before I start, I'll try to keep it brief. We do put together kind of large packets here with that. Does the board have any particular questions that you'd like me to answer right now?
When do you want to open a public hearing?
I would let Taylor, let's do the seeker part and
And then
button that
open
up for one of them. And
Yeah.
then before the next public hearing, we'll button it up for that one.
Okay, so go
So
ahead.
which one are we talking about right now?
Whitelaw Walker.
Whitelaw, okay, good.
Okay, so, make sure we got the right ones in front of us. So, part 2, the environmental assessment form, this is a state form that we fill out. You'll see a lot of questions and, check boxes here, yes or no's. I'm not gonna walk through every question, on the 10 pages here. I'm gonna just cover a brief summary, how we approached this and what our opinions were. These were, our opinions, your professional opinions, certainly the board can change them, if they so choose. So, you guys are familiar with water main projects. The Whitelaw Water District here is just a water extension. There are no pump stations, there are no water tanks. We're just talking about water main in the ground, and then water services to property boundaries where the property owners would then connect into them. So, with that being said, the first question here from the state, impact on land, yes, is of course our answer, given the excavation that we'll need to do. That excavation and that disturbance will be temporary. We will be completing a stormwater pollution prevention plan as part of the design phase to make sure any of that disturbance is done in accordance with the SWIP and with our construction permit through DEC to do that. Next, we have impacts on geological features, no impacts on surface water. Yes, we do have potential wetlands in the area. During the design phase, we will do a wetland delineation. And then any pipelines that have to cross those potential wetlands, we will look to use trenchless methods so that there's no wetland disturbance. Should we have to open cut through one of those wetlands, that will be restored in accordance with any DEC or Army Corps permit. Impacts on groundwater, no. Yes, no. Impacts on flooding, we checked yes because there are mapped 100 and 500-year floodplains within the boundaries of the project. However, our water main does not look like it will be crossing through any of those floodplain areas. So no ground disturbances expected to occur within the floodplains. Impacts on air, no. Impacts on plants and animals, yes. During the design phase, a habitat assessment will be completed. Appropriate documentation and coordination will be completed to ensure any potential impacts to state and federal listed species are minimized to the extent practical. The proposed improvements will be largely limited to roadways and road right-of-ways. Impacts to agricultural resources, there are a few ag district properties that are within the water district, the proposed water district. Our disturbances will be limited to the right-of-ways, of course, and during the design phase, we will coordinate with New York State Department of Ag Markets. They usually have a set of construction requirements that go into our contract documents, and we will follow that as well. Impacts on aesthetic resources, yes, there will be construction traffic that's temporary during the construction period. Again, this is all subsurface construction, so those aesthetic impacts will not be permanent. And then lastly, we have, not lastly yet, impacts impacts on historic and archaeological resources. During the part one, we reached out to the State Historic Preservation Office. They did respond, recommending a phase 1A archaeological survey. So that will be completed during the design phase, and based on the results from phase 1A, there could be a phase 1B that the town is familiar with. That's the shovel test pits. We may be doing that if recommended. No impacts on open space and recreation, or critical environmental areas. Impacts on transportation will be temporary during construction. No impacts on energy, impacts on noise, odor, and light will be temporary during construction. And then no impacts on human health, community claims, or consistency with the community. That's the very brief version.
Good. So Taylor's done a nice job of summarizing the many pages he's put together in this, including some written findings that support these answers that which you're going to attach to that. And then I'm gonna move to if you guys are ready, I would have you guys consider the negative declaration resolution that's in your packet, meaning you've examined all of this material, you've listened to what Taylor's had to say, you're in agreement with the findings and conclusions for the environmental review for this particular project on the secret process. And then you would consider a motion and a second to adopt the negative declaration and direct that the next steps be taken once adopted to notify the appropriate agencies what we've done. I'd say that's appropriate this time before opening the public hearing.
Okay, do I have a motion for that?
I'll move it.
Motion by Jeff Martin, second.
Second, John.
Second by Mr. Bruskevich. Is there any discussion? All in favor, signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, motion to open up the public hearing for Whitelaw Water. Any motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second. Second by Mr. Montroy. Is there any discussion? Mr. Montroy.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Bruskevich.
Aye.
Mr. Givens.
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, public hearing's open. Is there anybody here to speak for or against the water district?
Let's speak for it.
Okay, well, that's what I'm asking. Is there anybody here to speak for or against it?
It's only been about 20,
What's that, Jason?
it's only been about 20 years I've been waiting for this, so.
Let's get on it. Well, that's why we're trying to do it. We're trying to find some money, and we did a water district with the county in Lincoln, and they wound up getting more money awarded to them than we thought they were gonna get, and it wound up being about 2/3 cheaper than what we figured it was gonna be. So hopefully we can rustle up some money.
Very good.
Okay? All right. Any other questions on that?
One question is how come you're not going all the way down Abbey Road to tie into 31?
What's that? Eddie has water.
Abbey has water part way up from 31.
Right, but we are
When you
tying
go down
into
from
that.
Waterbury Road, you're gonna dead end and then you're gonna dead end and be two dead ends.
There's gonna be two dead ends.
That was gonna be a
According to this
thought we had that.
According to the map, there's gonna be two dead ends on Abbey Road.
We do have a dead end on Eddy. We are connecting into the existing system on Clark.
Right.
My understanding is that the existing water main coming off Route 31 does not extend south on Eddy.
It doesn't come up Abbey Road?
Correct. So as we look to do these water districts, you kind of look, you're balancing how much water main you have to put in versus how many parcels can you pick up, because it affects your user cost.
I understand that.
So as we're looking at a lot of vacant parcels between generally the intersection of Waterbury and Eddy, and trying to get to where the houses were off of Route 31, it just wasn't gonna be cost effective. It's gonna add a lot of cost and a lot of needs.
Well, I mean, I got friends that live over there, and I'm just wondering why it's not going all the way through, that's all I'm just asking.
What would happen if we wanted to extend that and go all the way through? We'd have to change everything all around.
Yep. You'd have to
Just start the
restart.
process all over.
Restart.
Yeah, I mean, there's
Well, we could do that
probably
as
a
an ex,
quarter,
we could do
probably
that
a
as
quarter of a
extension.
mile and two houses in there, or maybe more than that,
Yeah,
from between where it dead ends and.
well, maybe we could do that as an extension, because they're gonna need a lot of grant money for that. You more grant money for that.
Yeah, what I'm looking at is a lot of vacant land, so it's just that cost per
Well,
unit.
What is, yeah, but how far is it actually between,
Roughly 3,000 feet maybe. You're not gonna get any units, you're gonna get vacant parcels, maybe 1 unit, 1.5.
I think there's three houses, I think there's 3 houses now. And that's in between. That's what I was.
Are they new houses, Jason? Are they newer homes? No.
I mean, they're newer, but they're not new. They've been built within the last 20 years, let's put it that way.
Well, since we started the project, so.
So unless you did an extension from heading the other way for that, instead of running it that way and doing all, running it down all that thing.
I was just wondering, because every time you have a dead end, you have a dead water
Right.
spot.
So we talked about that, and see if people want it, they would have to tell us they wanted it.
Well, if there's only 3 of them, that'd be easy.
You gotta see what the costs will be about.
Well, we'll put in, if it's an extension, we can draw it all up and do it as an extension. And for the 3 of them, see if we can get money for that, more money for that.
If they're not here asking for it.
Well, I just asked.
They gotta say they want it first, now move from there.
Okay. You guys all set then?
Yep.
Good. Okay, and need a motion to close the public hearing?
John?
Yes.
Jason Ford, Mike spoke with you on the phone about this, I have a couple of questions that you had answered for me. But the end cost per resident is already established, correct?
Correct.
What's gonna happen, I mean, like, have we been to the stage yet where,
Goes out to bid?
like, test holes or, dig excavation has been tested? Cause they hit my end of the road, there's nobody that knows better but Mr. Montroy here. It's solid shale. And it's gonna be a huge cost, I know it is, it's gonna be way over budget.
Well, when we put it out to bid.
And I just don't wanna, I just wanna make sure that the residents aren't gonna have to absorb that.
No, the cost is the cost, what we told you the cost was, and then if, we go out to bid and the cost comes back over, we gotta go back and try to find some more grant money. So what we're telling you is that cost is the fixed cost.
Right.
With what grant money we think we can get, and if it comes in over budget, we'll have to go find some more.
So how long does that take?
Take a while. All depends on who's in office. Hopefully, let's keep our fingers crossed that, they'll be able, is it rippable, I don't know, Dave, is it rippable shale? Or is it stuff you gotta really
You rip up some.
You can rip up some of it?
Yeah.
4 feet of it?
Yeah, it's all locked on there.
So what happens, so let me ask you this, what happens when the project is underway and we're in the construction phase of the whole thing, and we run into that nightmare?
We just had that happen, Taylor, you can explain.
So what happens to the people that have had their yards already torn up?
Well, they gotta restore them back to the way that they were, it goes back to 100% the way that it was.
No, I
As part of
understand.
restoration.
I'm just saying, like, the process gets delayed.
Well,
Well,
they built
no,
in some
that's-
improvements inside that budget.
There's contingency in the project.
Correct, so just a little bit with project life cycle, we're looking to form a district right now, as we talked about, and then look for funding, that's the supervisor then. Once we secure the funding, then we would get into a design phase, which we go through the soil borings.
Okay.
Once we have the soil borings, we'll be able to try to profile where the rock is, where it's rippable, where it's, a harder granite type rock, if we come across that. That information goes into the bidding documents that the contractors will bid on, so they should be reviewing that, they should be well aware of what the conditions they encounter, and their bid price should reflect, those bidding conditions. Now, of course, we might poke a hole in the ground here, we go 100 feet down the road, poke another hole in the ground, and then in between, there might be some rock that wasn't identified, and the contractor didn't know about, and that's where this contingency comes in. We get into negotiations with the contractor, we'll probably have pricing in the bid already for cubic yards of rock removal, but that's where the contingency comes from.
This pile right here, by the time we're all through, will like quadruple in paperwork, so.
Well, in order for the project to be considered for applicable money this process has to happen first in order to go out and do all this. And so but if this does get approved and then, like you said, the bids come back in and they're out of wages, the project may not happen. But I think that unless they can find enough money to get you back to where those numbers are. And if there's an option to go beyond those numbers, the town has to come back to you, the public, the people that are benefited by it, make sure you have another public hearing, you see these numbers again, and everybody nods.
That's
That
good.
happens before there's a shovel in the ground.
Yeah.
So you don't get nervous that they get part way and run into rocket force and say we're
Not
not.
nervous.
So we can't, yeah, we won't stop, won't stop in the middle of the project. We deal with RD, rural development, we get looking for WIA money, who else are we looking for? Northern, what was it, northern corridors, yeah, northern border, we found some money from, so hopefully we'll get enough money to not have to worry about any of this stuff. And once it's out to bid, and, you know, and you look for money, a lot of times the agencies will help you out. You know, if they haven't allocated all their money for the year, they'll call back and say, okay, we can give you extra money. So, all kinds of things in play. We've seen it where they're only gonna fund you up to 60%, and then they change the formula and help you out up to 80%. Like I said, it all depends on the mood of the day and who's in office. Hopefully, we'll be all set. Okay, motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bershkevich. Is there any discussion? Okay, Mr. Bershkevich.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbons.
Aye.
Mr. Montrose.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Okay, so we wanna accept the Whitelaw
So,
water.
yeah, next step is there's a resolution in the event that we wanna vote on this, which I think you wanna address it, to actually, vote on the formation of the district, and which allows the engineers to take it to the next steps to get the financing funding for this.
Okay, Taylor, you wanna just talk a little bit about the funding, our schedule for funding, targets we gotta hit for grants?
Yeah, I have the numbers, in here, we're certainly looking for, a lot of grant funding. The one program we are going to be targeting is this WIA that you mentioned, this New York State Environmental Facilities Corporation Water Infrastructure Improvement Act grant. That is, it's up to $5 million now, it's still capped at 60% of your total project cost. So that would put us in the ballpark, a little bit over $3 million. We would be looking for a little bit of supplemental funding. We think that we can get through rural development. So probably a co-funding project like this town has done in the past, rural development as well as Environmental Facilities Corporation. We could look at both EFC and RD for the loan. They have different loan terms. You know, their metrics are changing for based on median household income when you would qualify for subsidy. I think rural development will probably be the better avenue right now, but we'll be reaching out to see what the funding packages come back for both agencies and what is the best fit for this district.
We're at 5 million on this project, 5.3 million. Wanna hang around for the next, this number looks small. So, okay, all right, we need a motion to, accept the Whitelaw, Water District.
So moved, John.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Montrose. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, now we'll talk about our $21 million Bridgeport Sewer District.
We'll go in the same order, Taylor, Seeker first, and then.
Okay. So Seeker's gonna sound very similar to Whitelaw. In the background of this project, we obviously have pipeline in the ground, but we do have 3 pump stations that are planned. It would be a gravity sewer system that then would flow to these pump stations. These pump stations would pump back to Route 31 where the existing force main is. So there's a little bit difference in the Seeker approach here with the pump stations. Everything else with regards to the pipeline would generally be the same. So I'll probably go a little bit quicker here on some of the impacts. Impacts on proposed land, the same obviously with the pipeline. Again, we'll have a SWIP and a construction speedies permit. We certainly will need to acquire property for these pump stations. That again will happen during the the design phase as well. No impacts for geological features. Yes, for impacts on surface water. Again, the wetland delineations will be conducted during the preliminary design phase. Those impacts will be mitigated with trenchless installation as possible, and then open cut if needed will be coordinated with the DEC and Army Corps. Impacts on groundwater, no. Impacts on flooding, certainly this will be constructed, some of the pipelines within the 100-year floodplain of the Oneida Lake. That will be temporary disturbances that will be restored to their pre-construction condition. Pump stations themselves, we don't know exactly their locations right now. That will depend on where we can purchase property. We do have design rules on our side that any of the critical equipment, all your electricals, your generator, they have to be at minimum 3 feet above the 100-year floodplain so that they're protected. So we'll be designed around that standard. Impacts on air, no. Impacts on plants and animals, same as we had the discussion for Whitelaw. Impacts on agricultural resources, there are not any ag districts within this proposed district, so we don't have to worry about that. Impacts on aesthetic resources with those pump stations. You may have structures that sit above ground that may be visible. They will be within generally the residential areas of the district that we're serving. The pump stations, they may consist of small buildings, but we don't think they will change the character from the existing conditions within the project area. We can do some things with the architecture, try to blend them in as as the board sees fit. Impacts on historic and archaeological resources, same as with Whitelaw. State Historic Preservation Office did respond recommending the phase 1A survey, so we plan on doing that during the design phase. Depending on those recommendations, we may or may not need a phase 1B survey as well. Impacts on open space and recreation, no. Same for critical environmental areas. Impacts on transportation, yes, during construction, those will be temporary. Impacts on energy, the pump stations, they will use a small increase in energy for their operation. We do not think that would be significant.
They'll be battery operated by the time we get going.
Impacts on noise, odor, and light. The one thing we do want to point out, these pump stations, they may be fitted with on-site standby generators, just like the two in the existing Bridgeport Sewer District. These will be diesel generators unless the regulations change, as you pointed out. So the diesel generators, they will be in noise enclosures. You still can hear them when they do run. They are for emergency only. The generators typically will exercise routinely once per week for about an hour each week. That additional noise is not anticipated to adversely impact nearby properties. The last three, impacts on human health, consistency with community plans, and consistency with community character. We will check no for those answers. And that is all I had for seeker, unless the board had any questions.
Okay, motion to accept the secret review for Bridgeport extension number 1. So moved. Motion by Mr. Gibbons, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Montrose. Is there any discussion?
Martin.
I'm sorry. Mr.
That's
Martin.
okay.
I'm sorry.
Over.
Sorry, Dave. Okay, all in favor, signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, motion to open up the public hearing for Bridgeport Sewer Extension 1. Motion. Motion by Mr. Briskevich, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Martin. Is there any discussion? Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Montrose.
Aye.
Mr. Gibbons.
Aye.
Mr. Briskevich.
Yes.
And I'm an aye. Okay, the public hearing is open. Is anybody here to speak for or against the Bridgeport extension number 1? Okay, that's good. Yes, sir.
I don't have anything to, I'm glad you got sewers, but will that cover the whole lakeside now
Yeah,
on Bridgeport?
Yep, that finishes it all.
Right.
Yep. The whole lakefront will be covered with sewers.
It covers the lake, but we also did some research on
Smith Ridge.
Smith Ridge Road and other roads that possibly could be added to the sewer district, and they actually opted out of.
Oh,
So it finishes it up.
that's too bad.
And we could have done this project, 2014 or 15 it was for, I think it was 7 million or 8 million. Now we're at 21.
1976, when my father was here, they wanted it, they didn't get it.
This is our
And
third,
70, what was it, 75% funded, I think, back then.
our third time, this is our third time.
So, okay, seeing nobody, no comments, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So move, John.
Motion by Mr. Martin, second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Montrose. Is there any discussion? Okay, Mr. Burskevich,
Aye.
Mr. Gibbons,
Aye.
Mr. Martin,
Aye.
Mr. Montrose.
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Hearing's closed. Okay, I need a motion to accept the, White Law Water,
No, this is,
or Bridgeport, I'm sorry, I'm looking at what I crossed out.
You're right.
I'm really screwed up. Bridgeport extension number 1,
So
I need a motion for that. Motion
moved.
by Mr. Burskevich, second.
Second?
Second by Mr. Gibbons, is there any discussion?
I just mentioned that we have to publish a notice if this is approved.
For 30
Approved
days.
At the public, it's gonna burn off pretty short, it's really just it's a 10-day notice of adoption. And then there's a period that's gonna run out 30 days, as you said, and we'll get that out to the paper as quick as possible.
Okay, all in favor, signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Okay, budget mods, we don't have any budget mods. Okay, I have, on the screen is the business park. I have, there's some money at the county for senior housing. I've been working with, Stoneleigh Housing out of Canastota, and they had some land they brought down towards Bridgeport, and the deal's not going to work out. So, it's about a 34 unit senior housing. I thought maybe we could knock off 5 acres out of the park. It would be good for senior housing because you got the store right there. They could walk across the Route 31 if they dare, to get to the passive park, in the marina. And, I wanna know if you guys wanna entertain, sitting down and talking to them about that.
We talked that Army Corps had some wetlands
Right.
situation. How, has that changed for this, John?
No, the Army Corps has done, I'm gonna reserve my comments, but as you know, the Army Corps says that we have to have a project before they'll consider it, and no projects wanna come because the wetlands aren't delineated. So I think we can work through this with Stoneleigh on that. We can tell the Army Corps, okay, we've got a project, now what are you gonna do? The Army Corps right now is pulled back to the 2014 waters of the US. So now we're back into more stringent regulations versus where they've had them held off for 4 years. So, and, they're looking for comments, I just got back from NACO, they're looking for comments from, ag users and that kind of things on waters of the US, but I don't see them moving off the 2014 definition. So I'm hoping that maybe we can delineate some of the wetlands over into the unused portion of the park. Because we got a project we can talk turkey on. So, we didn't want to know nothing while we didn't have a project.
It certainly would be a good project to look into.
We'll have to move fairly quickly because it's ARPA money at the county that's gonna help us out. There's about $250,000 there. So we wanna use it before next year, before it has to go back to the federal government.
So how many usable acres are there?
63 or 64, maybe, I wanna say. That's what's there, but there's, how many acres of wetlands did they come up with from our 2014? Like, that was all usable in 2000 when this was done. And now 2014, we've got what, 10
I was
acres?
gonna say,
10 acre, about 10 acres of
bottom
wetland.
right corner that's cleared, that shows up a lot as wetlands.
Yes.
Probably off the table.
In our town right now, there's a minimum of senior housing that is available. And many towns are going to this type of project where they have a senior community, a senior center. They have a bus that goes from the center to the stores. It's just the perfect place to look into it.
Right around where the address is, 2000 Enterprise Parkway, it's about a 5 acre lot right there. Which would be a good usable lot for them.
Cicero, town of Cicero, they just announced their second senior complex. First one was very, very successful.
I think we can make it work, if we can get through the wetland portion. Everybody good?
Yep.
Good?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, okay. All right, Mike Mastriano wanted to come in and get on the agenda, but I asked him what he wanted. He's looking for our blessing on, he has to put in, he's gonna cover in one section of ditch or something that he's got, and you know about it, you wanna try to explain it. He wants to go to 1,400 feet of road frontage with the water instead of 1,000 feet, and he had to go through the fire marshal.
Was it the road?
I
I think it's a road, John.
Okay.
He came into the planning board
Yeah,
last night.
so whatever it was he wanted last
He's
night.
gonna exceed potentially exceed regulations for fire safety, and Bill Pindle wrote up a note on it. So he ultimately has to come to you formally and ask for you guys to sign off on the length of the road under current regulation. He's supposed to bring all the information, because he just brought it up yesterday. I didn't know much about it until he showed up last night, so I wanna hear more about it.
So it's 1,400 feet, or it's 1,000 feet, he wants to go to 1,400 feet.
I guess
The
it is.
fire.
To avoid building a bridge,
Yes.
he'd have to build a $700,000 bridge for his project to continue.
Which
Per-
he
per
could
house.
put a culvert in before,
Right.
and now under
That
waters of
changed.
the US, he has to build a $700,000 bridge.
Just like your last comment, if it had been done earlier,
Yeah.
that wouldn't be an issue, but now he's looking for a way to complete the project that he had in mind, and he's gonna need some help from the town to do it.
Yeah, and this.
Not financial, but.
This is what happens when I talk about, depends on who's in office. The last 4 years, waters of the US was put on hold, business friendly. Now, past 2 years, it's not so friendly. Maybe in the next 4 years, it'll get friendly again, who the hell knows? So,
I wasn't
okay.
sure he was coming in tonight. I didn't get the sense he was gonna be in tonight. I
We're
thought
not
he'll
gonna
be here
get into
soon, but
that,
I don't
so.
know when.
All right, he wants to sit down with Larry and I, so what do you want me to do? Just tell him, write me a letter on what you want.
That'd be great if
Okay.
you could do that, and then set up a meeting with you guys, and then come to the board.
Okay, let's see. What did I check that off? Okay, we don't have any budget modifications, we don't have any firefighter applications. Hitchcock Point, I heard from the state DOT, and they were only gonna do a portion of it, and they asked if, I thought that it would be a good idea to do the whole thing. I conferred with, our highway superintendent, and he thought it was a good idea, so all of Hitchcock Point will now be 40 miles an hour. It'll give you guys something to do.
Work on North Road.
Yeah, North Road, there you go. Okay, we'll need an executive session, so what do you got? You got something?
I come in peace.
Yeah.
But I was here in May, the first week in May, you were out of town or whatever. And I complained about my ditch that Onondaga, the county's water goes in my ditch on my land and it's all plugged up. And he sent 2 people out and their glass was half empty. And I haven't heard anything back from anybody since. And I was hoping to get, I can't do it. I've done it since '88. I can't clean it out anymore. It needs some attention.
You know what this is right here? This is Andy's to-do list. Your name's right on it.
There you go.
So, when the boys went down to visit you, you said they agreed that they could take a mini excavator down.
Heck, yes, yeah, and now,
But you didn't want them to leave the dirt there.
well, I got a place they can work the dirt.
Removing the dirt and moving it with trucks is not an option for us.
Well, I got a place they can put the dirt.
It's gonna have to be on the banks. When we ditch, we put the dirt on the banks, we can't be trucking it and moving it.
Well, you'd have, well, wait a minute, come on, you take pictures of Mars, you're telling me you can't put dirt somewhere, come on.
We can go in there with an excavator and clean the ditches, but
Well, I can't have them on, then the water won't go in the ditch if you put the water on the banks.
relocating the materials is not an option for us.
You own both sides of that ditch?
No,
Oh, you don't.
no.
So that's beyond
With a
us.
Bobcat, you can carry it from here to my vehicle away and dump it. And they were all concerned that you couldn't get back in there because it was too wet. Well, now, when I first moved in there, I had a Bobcat back in there. You can get a Bobcat in there. But right now, it's all overgrown. A chainsaw would work good if I could bend over. But I need help, gentlemen. I need help. I'm asking you to do it right now. In my opinion, it's a health hazard. Not now because there's no rain, but all the water gets trapped. I got mosquitoes.
Where's that go, all the way to the creek?
Yeah, if you point it up, not really. Yes, it eventually does, but it's all overgrown. 40 years ago it probably did. Now it eventually leads to the creek. I feel kind of discriminated against because when the nation had a problem, you guys came, or the county came in, eminent domain up by the old people, the old lady's house before the family knew what the heck hit them. And that's got a beautiful runway right down through there.
No, I'll have to talk to Joe, or you wanna talk to Joe anyway?
Okay, didn't you contact them? Didn't they come out and look at it?
No, years ago I did, but I figured I'd come to you guys because you have more pull than my phone call,
I thought you would contact them.
you know. No, but I can't have the dirt on the edge because then it's gonna plug all the water up on my lawn. You know what I mean?
Well, that's where.
And as far as going on the other side, I don't own that other side of the ditch.
Who owns the other side of the ditch?
2 people.
That's where it gets a little complicated for us.
Well, the one person I know wouldn't care. The person next to me, I have no idea what their opinion would be.
Well, let's
But
talk,
something, you know,
let's talk to Joe
You
and we'll see who owns
can,
it.
you can let it go, and when I'm long gone, you're really gonna have a problem, because you're gonna be flooding
Well, it
up by
only
the
gets
church.
worse. It only gets worse.
I mean, if you can typically ditch it, I don't know if it's wet at all, but typically when you do a ditch, it's wet, and you put the wet material on the bank. You can't do anything with that material for a long time, until it dries.
Right.
I mean, then you're.
Well, right now, it's one of the, obviously, it's one of the driest, but if we get 6 inches of rain, forget it.
Okay,
So that's what I wanted,
that's what you got?
that's what I got.
Okay. All right.
I mean, unless you wanna talk about other stuff, like.
Well, see what's up to you. You got the floor, Chief. You good?
Yeah, we're good.
Everybody else good? Yes, sir.
My name's Ernie Hotel on 873 Marsh Mill Road. I'm an idiot, or I would've been a mason. I just got a statement. I'm keeping a little bit of record about building codes around town. I know this town works on a fair system instead of the equal system. But a hip roof with 2x4s, an addition on a house with 6x6s, the addition's bigger than the house. So I'm just hoping when I build something, I'd like to get a little fair treatment too. Thank you for your time.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Okay, motion to go into executive session
So moved.
for advice of counsel. Motion by Mr. Martin, second. Second. Second by Mr. Gibbons. All in favor signify by voting aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried.
We're not expected to take formal action.
No.